A judge in Washington, D.C. today unsealed a document containing hundreds of text messages between former Trump campaign chairman and current inmate Paul Manafort and a person who is very clearly Trump TV host Sean Hannity. Prosecutors submitted the texts into the record during Manafort's sentencing. The logs show the two chatted frequently for almost a year before Manafort was sent to jail in June of last year. They touched on a lot of topics, but perhaps most importantly, Manafort made it clear over and over to Hannity that he was not going to flip on the president. And Trump's close friend Hannity encouraged Manafort to stay strong. Like on March 14th, 2018, when Hannity texted, quote, "Why don't you get a sweetheart deal like Gates?" Manafort replied, "They would want me to give up DT or family, especially JK." That's Jared Kushner. "I would never do that." And Hannity says, "Understand, there is nothing to give up on DT." "What did JK do?" Manafort replies, "Nothing, just like I did nothing. They will want me to make stuff up on both. I will never do that. OMG, our system is so messed up," said Hannity. I'm joined now by Elie Mystal, executive editor of Above the Law, a contributor at The Nation. Well, I will say about these texts. Sean Hannity is not two-faced. He is not duplicitous. I'm serious. And he is not putting on a show. The Sean Hannity of the texts is the Sean Hannity you get every night. He's basically performing his deep state monologues to Paul Manafort via text.
Yes, which is why he should be fired in any kind of reasonable world where journalism exists. Like, I know regular viewers of this show don't really need to be told this, but this is just further proof that Sean Hannity is not a newsman, he is a spokesman. He is like the ShamWow guy, only what he's selling is misinformation, and you see it rolling through all these texts. Can you imagine what would happen to you at this? I mean, I don't want to blow up your spot, but like, if you had these texts to Anthony Weiner telling him like, "Stay strong, bro, it's gonna work out," like, I don't think you would have your show. Like,
yeah, I think it would be bad. Yeah.
You just aren't allowed to do that, right?
Yeah,
so that's the one thing. Then we have to remember the legal angle here. Like, the reason why these got entered into the records because there was a gag order. Right? And Manafort was violating the gag order by sending these texts to Sean Hannity. There's actually a bit of the text where where Sean's like, "Come on, bro, you got to come on the show." He's basically like the Fire Festival, like, "Come on, let's come on the show and let's be legends." And Manafort's like, "Oh man, I can't, man, because the gag order," which he is violating throughout the text. There's also a gag order applying to his lawyer, Ken Dowling, and Manafort repeatedly in these texts, it's shown that Ken Dowling, Manafort's lawyer, is feeding Sean Hannity information. At one point, Hannity says, "Oh, Ken's feeding me. He has to keep feeding me." Ken Dowling was also under the same gag order. So this is the reason why these got entered into the record in the first place.
Because they're violations.
Because they're violations of the gag.
The other thing here, I mean, here's just a sort of taste of what this is like. Like Manafort says, "I won't give up and I won't sell out." This is the distress signals text from August 11, 2017. "I won't give up, I won't sell out." In November, he says, "We will win. It's going to be ugly, expensive, and aggressive." He also says, "I live in a nightmare every day, but I won't give in." The clearest thing that's happening here is that he's talking to Donald Trump through Sean Hannity about whether he will flip or not. I mean, that is like the obvious implication.
It's not even subtext. It's just text, right? At one point, he says, "It's just lonely out here, man. It's so lonely. I'm very strong, but it's so lonely." And Sean's like, "Stay strong, brother. Stay strong. God is your..." It's Sean Hannity being the go-between between Trump and Manafort, telling Manafort that it's all going to work out. And Manafort is saying, like, "You're right, you're right, you're right. I have to stay strong." And this is where we get into the JK thing, right? Because it seems very clear, like Sean Hannity completely in the tank for Trump, nothing wrong with Trump, but what did JK do, right? They're very easy.
They keep coming back to what did JK do?
And then Manafort says, "Oh, nothing, just like me." Well, see, the thing is, Manafort did something, right? It reminds me of like when you see like a prison movie and you're like, "Hey, what are you in for?" And the prisoner's like, "Oh, lawyer got me. That's what I'm in for." Everybody's like, "Ah, ha, ha, yeah." Like that's Manafort and JK right now. And let's remember, Mueller didn't go through the process of forcing JK to sit down to testify under oath in his investigation, which to me kind of rolls us all the way back into the congressional investigations and impeachment. These texts show there's clearly still more to uncover about Jared Kushner.
Here's the thing I would say also what these texts show to me. I mean, this is Manafort. Your monologue tonight was the best summary ever of the case against Mueller and his team. This is December 27, 2017. Hannity, F him, disgrace. He calls Weissman a POS. Again, this is what he says on the show every night. This is not some, but here's what it shows to me. Manafort was never cooperating. He was never going to cooperate. We know he broke his cooperation agreement according to the government. And we also know that the president's lawyers are constantly monitoring who and who is not cooperating in ways that border on witness tampering, if not cross over into that explicitly. And this certainly makes it seem plausible that Sean Hannity is a party to that.
We thought that Rick Gates was cooperating, right? But in these texts, Manafort says, no, Gates is with Trump and me. He's strong just like me. And then, as you pointed out, Hannity says, like, why don't you get a sweet deal like Gates? They clearly don't feel like Gates is a threat to to them, which suggests, once again, that Gates wasn't actually cooperating this whole time.
All right, Elie Mystal, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.